My sister hates me for using her college fund. I just wanted to save my marriage. My sister hates me for using her university fund. I only wanted to save my marriage. I don't know if this makes me look like a bad person. I don't know if I'm already so broken that I can't tell right from wrong. I only know that I was trying to save the only thing I had left. 2 years ago I made a mistake. I don't deny it. One night, in one of those moments when you feel the world is suffocating you and you just want to stop being yourself, I ended up doing something unforgivable. I cheated on my husband. It was never love. It was never anything serious. It was empty, stupid. A ridiculous way to try to feel something in the middle of the pain. He found out. He didn't leave me, but he was never the same again. Neither was I. Since then we've lived trapped in a kind of bitter truce. We lived in the same house, shared the same bed, but we were two ghosts who barely brushed against each other. Until recently, when he said it, "What if we go on a trip, maybe we could start over?" My heart leapt. A second chance. It really seemed possible, but there was a huge problem. We had no money. My cards were on the verge of collapse after years of trying to cover holes in our life. He could barely manage with his salary. I was trapped. Then I thought of Lucia, my sister, my little one. I raised her after our parents died. I worked double shifts, dropped out of college, gave up going out, dreaming, living, so she could have a better future. Wasn't it fair that now she helped me a little? Just this once. Lucia has a university fund, more than 30,000 pesos that our parents left before they died. She has scholarships, she has help. That money is there, safe, waiting. Wasn't it reasonable to ask for a part? A loan. At first I asked for 2,000 pesos. But then, when I saw the prices of flights, hotels, everything a real new beginning would cost, I knew I needed more. I asked her for 101,000 pesos. I promised I would pay it back before the end of the year. Was it really too much to ask, after everything I sacrificed for her? But Lucia looked at me as if I were a stranger, as if I were asking her to jump off a cliff. "I can't," she said without hesitation. "It's for my future. I can't risk it." And my future, my marriage, our family, did that not matter? She couldn't understand it. How can someone so quickly forget everything they were given? Everything that was done out of love? I left her apartment empty-handed and heartbroken. That night I cried. I cried like I hadn't since our parents' funeral. It wasn't just the money, it was the betrayal, the abandonment, the indifference. Is it really that hard to reach out to the person who loved you first? To the one who saved you first? I spent days wondering what to do. Every minute that passed was another nail in the coffin, and then I knew. I couldn't sit with my arms crossed. I wasn't going to lose everything without a fight. I remembered something. Years ago, when Lucia started college, I helped her create her online access to the fund myself. She asked me to guide her because she didn't understand anything about banks. I had her password, I didn't look for it, I didn't force anything. It was there in my head like an echo from the past. I logged in, I transferred 10,000 pesos to my account, temporarily, just until I could pay them back, just to save my marriage. Does that make me a thief? Is it really so unforgivable to want to fight for what you love? I booked the trip. The best resort I could find. Dinners at restaurants that looked like they'd been taken from movies. A rental car that shone like new under the sun. For the first time in years, we smiled. For the first time in years, I saw him looking at me as if I were really there. Wasn't it worth it? Doesn't love matter more than the cold numbers of a bank account? I don't know what will happen tomorrow. I only know that for a moment I believed everything was okay again, and that can't be so bad. Oh, yes. Update 1. I'm not going to sit here and pretend what I did was perfect. I know that to some of you taking that money sounds like a crime, but from where I was standing it didn't feel like theft, it felt like love, it felt like hope, it felt like the last chance to save something that was already falling apart before my eyes. Can someone who acts out of love really be a thief? I entered her bank account like someone opens a door left ajar years ago. I didn't force it, I didn't hack anything, I simply remembered. I remembered the password we created together when Lucia begged me to help her because she didn't understand anything about banks. Can you truly blame someone for using the keys they were entrusted with when all they wanted was to save their home? I transferred the 10,000 pesos. I took a deep breath. I felt a knot of guilt in my stomach, yes, but also a spark of hope I hadn't felt in a long time. I booked the best trip I could find. A resort on an incredible beach. Candlelit dinners, couples massages, private boat rides, everything first class. What other chance was I going to have to get my husband back, to show him we could be happy again? When I told him, I didn't say where the money came from. I just told him I had arranged everything, that he shouldn't worry, that all he had to do was pack and trust me. And for a while it worked. I remember the first day we arrived. The air smelled like salt and promises. He took my hand without thinking. He smiled at me. He kissed me like before. How can anyone say it was wrong if for the first time in years I felt loved again? We laughed on the beach. We ate like royalty. He looked at me and I felt alive. It was as if the pain, the betrayal, the cold nights, everything, had melted away under that radiant sun. Who can judge me for wanting to hold on to that a little longer? But of course perfect moments never last, do they? By the third day I noticed the tension in his gaze when the restaurant bill arrived, when we paid for excursions, when he saw me booking spa treatments. He started asking questions. Awkward questions. Where did all this money come from? Are we really not spending too much? Don't you think we're living something we can't afford? I laughed. I hugged him, told him not to worry, that everything was fine, that for once we deserved to be happy without thinking about every dollar. Is it so bad to want a bit of luxury when you've spent years surviving? But every time I said it, I noticed something in his face harden a little more, as if he were beginning to see through me, as if he suspected that this gift had a hidden price. And maybe it did. Maybe the price was simply me. On the last night, during a dinner by the sea, he asked me directly, "Did you take out a loan? Did you sell something? Was this really a good idea?" I didn't know what to say. I just stood there looking at him, smiling like an idiot, clinging to that perfect image that was slipping through my fingers. What does it matter where the money came from if we were here together now? Why ruin it by asking too many questions? We didn't talk about it again. We packed in silence the next day. The trip ended like a bubble that bursts quietly in the air. And even though I tried to cling to every moment, to every forced smile, I already knew in my heart that something had broken in the process. But I still hadn't seen the worst. I still didn't know that while I was dreaming about happy futures, Lucia had already seen her bank account statement and that her reaction wouldn't be the compassion I had hoped for. Update 2. I don't know what I expected, honestly. Maybe for her to understand, maybe to remember that for years I was the one who stayed up at night for her, the one who signed her enrollment forms, who went to her parent-teacher meetings when no one else was left. How could she be so cruel to me now? Lucia called me as soon as we got back from the trip. Not to ask whether the trip had helped save my marriage. Not to see if I was okay. She called me screaming, hurling accusations I could barely follow through her tears of rage. How could you? That money was all that Mom and Dad left me. Each word felt like a blow, but in my mind each blow defended itself. Didn't Mom and Dad leave me the responsibility of raising her too? Didn't I also deserve a piece of that inheritance, even in another form? I tried to explain. I told her it was a loan, that it was temporary, that it was for something that could change my life, that love sometimes needs risks. But she didn't want to hear anything. She hung up and then the messages came, long, cold, cruel. You failed me. You robbed me. I don't want to see you again. Words that tore me apart, but also enraged me. How could she talk to me like that after everything I did for her? Couldn't she, just once, understand that I'm human too, that I can also make mistakes while trying to love? I paid the money back immediately. Well, halfway, I had to use my credit card. I went into debt up to my neck, but I did it because I didn't want to be the thief she saw. Because I thought that seeing the money back she would understand that it had all been a misstep, a small mistake compared to years of sacrifices. Didn't I deserve, at least, a chance to redeem myself? But no, nothing changed. Lucia blocked me everywhere. WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. She deleted me as if I were trash, as if the years when I was her substitute mother, her nurse, her protector meant nothing. How can it be so easy to forget all the good because of a single mistake? The loneliness was a silent blow that crushed me little by little. I no longer received her nightly calls asking for advice. I no longer had her spontaneous "I love you, sis" messages. Just emptiness. And meanwhile, at home, things with my husband didn't improve. It was as if everything I tried to build, everything I tried to save, was crumbling even faster than before. One night, while we were eating in silence, he dropped a bomb on the table. Lucia called me while we were on the trip. I froze. She told me you took the money without permission, that you stole to pay for all this. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to scream that it wasn't like that it was a loan, that I had done it for us. But the words got stuck in my throat. He just looked at me with a mixture of sadness and disappointment, as if he were finally seeing the person in front of him and didn't like what he saw. "Is it true?" he asked calmly. I didn't know what to say. How do you explain that yes, it was true, but that it was also an act of desperate love? How do you tell him that sometimes people do crazy things not because they don't love, but because they love too much? "I did it for us," I finally whispered. He didn't respond. He stood up from the table, and in many ways that was the real end. Even though his suitcases weren't yet by the door, even though his body kept sleeping beside me, his soul had already gone. Update 3. I suppose it was a matter of time. One of those things you know is about to happen, but you still pretend you don't see it. You still pray, even if you don't believe in anything, that somehow, magically, it won't happen. But it did. One morning, after weeks of heavy silences, empty dinners, and evasive glances, he simply left. There were no shouts, no insults, not even a big fight I could remember and say, "This is where everything exploded." No, just a note scribbled quickly on the kitchen table: "We can't keep pretending. Forgive me, but I can't do this anymore." Just like that, cold, final, empty. That's all our story was worth. A simple note on the table. I walked through the house like a ghost, touching the furniture, the walls, the plates we once shared. Everything looked the same and yet everything had changed. Who thinks about me now? Who cares how I feel? What it feels like when everything you gave, everything you tried to save, slips through your fingers. I tried to call him. Once, twice, 3 times, no answer. Just a brief message: "I need space." Space. After all I fought for, after everything I sacrificed, didn't I at least deserve a conversation, some closure, something? I then clung to the idea of Lucia, that despite everything I would still have her, that deep down she would understand that when everything calmed down, when the anger passed, she would remember everything we did together, that she would come back. So I wrote her a long message, desperate, full of clumsy apologies and sweet justifications. I know what I did was wrong. I know it wasn't right, but I did it out of love, out of desperation. I raised you, Lucia. I loved you when no one else could. Are you really going to erase me from your life because of a single mistake? I sent it trembling. I waited hours, days. The reply never came, not even a scene. Only silence. I went to her Instagram profile from a fake account. I saw her photos, smiles, friends, achievements, a new life, a world I was no longer part of. And that's when I realized. She had already left me. Just like he did. Everything I had tried to build, everything I had believed eternal, had crumbled. And I was left trapped in the ruins, asking myself over and over, am I really that bad? Can a single mistake truly erase everything? Can't anyone see that I did it all because I loved too much? Sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and barely recognize myself. The woman I used to be, strong, determined, capable of sacrificing herself without asking anything in return, is gone. What's left is someone who tried, failed, and was left alone. Didn't I deserve at least a little understanding? I don't know, maybe I am the bad one, maybe I always was and never wanted to see it. Or maybe love simply isn't enough to save anyone, not a marriage, not a sister, not yourself. Update 4. Today should have been a happy day. Today my sister graduated from college. The same dream I worked for, cried for, gave up everything for. The same future I swore to protect when I was just a scared girl clinging to me at our parents' funeral. I should have been in the front row clapping like crazy, crying with pride. I should have been part of her joy. But I wasn't. Today I watched from the edge of the street. Lucia didn't invite me. There were no messages, no emails, not even a mention. It was as if I didn't exist, as if I had never existed. And yet I went. I don't know what I expected. Maybe, deep down, that seeing me would make her remember something. Maybe my presence would be enough to open a crack in the wall of ice she built between us. I arrived early, I stayed far away, hidden among the parked cars. From there I could see the makeshift stage, the rows of chairs, the floating balloons, the people laughing. And then I saw her, radiant, with that smile she used to reserve only for me. Lucia went up on stage with her black gown billowing behind her. She received her diploma with her arms held high, hugged her friends, her boyfriend, I suppose he was her boyfriend, I didn't know, and she laughed as if the whole world were hers. And I was there in an old sweatshirt, dark glasses to hide the tears, clutching a cold pizza I had bought to celebrate alone, like an intruder, like a shadow. Can a single mistake really erase a whole life of love, of sacrifices, of invisible efforts? I watched as her friends surrounded her, as her new family celebrated the person I helped shape. And I felt, in a devastating way, that the world had moved on without me, that I was stuck in a past that no longer existed. What am I supposed to do now? Where does someone go when they no longer belong anywhere? I wanted to approach her, I wanted to shout her name, I wanted to run to her, hug her, tell her I still loved her, that I would always love her even if she hated me, that I was broken too, that I also needed to be forgiven. But my legs didn't move. They stayed rooted to the ground, frozen by fear and shame, because deep down I knew that if I went near her she wouldn't hug me, she would pull away. Maybe she would look at me the way one looks at a stranger, or worse, the way one looks at someone you once loved but no longer recognize. So I watched her leave, laughing, happy, without knowing, or perhaps knowing all too well, that I was a few meters away crying in silence. And when the noise faded, when the last balloon floated into the sky, I stayed alone on that empty sidewalk, wondering when I stopped being her sister, at what moment everything we built together became so fragile, so disposable. Was I really such a terrible person as to deserve this absolute oblivion? I drove home on autopilot like a zombie. I don't even remember the traffic lights, the streets, the time. I only know that I arrived, threw the pizza in the trash, took off my shoes at the entrance and collapsed on the couch. I didn't turn on the light, I didn't reply to messages, I didn't cry anymore. I just stayed there in the dark, feeling the immense weight of everything I had lost, of everything I will probably never get back. Is it so unforgivable to make a mistake? Is it so easy for people to erase someone who loved them imperfectly? Maybe yes. Maybe it's easy for them, maybe it always was. And I was the only one who didn't want to see it. Today, seeing Lucia succeed from the shadows, I understood something that hurts more than any insult, any abandonment. She no longer needs me. She has learned to live without me, and I'm still here trapped in a love that no longer has a recipient. Final update. Weeks have passed since the graduation, since that afternoon when I saw Lucia embrace her future while I hid in the shadows of her past. Weeks of silence, weeks of absence, weeks of questions with no answers. And here I am still waiting, still believing, almost pathetically, that one day my phone will ring and it will be her, telling me she forgives me, telling me she misses me, that there is still something left of what we once were. Is it ridiculous to want to believe that love can survive even the biggest mistakes? The truth is that no matter how much I try to distract myself, to convince myself that I should move on, I can't. I'm still trapped in the same cycle of guilt and self-justification. At night I write letters I never send. Letters where I explain again and again what happened. Letters where I apologize, yes, but also where I remind her of everything I sacrificed for her, everything I gave up, everything I clumsily tried to build in my own way. I did it out of love, I did it so I wouldn't lose everything. I just wanted you to see that I also deserved to be saved for once. What good is that now? I know that to her I am the villain of her story. The thief, the selfish one, the sister who crossed a line that can't be erased. And maybe I am, maybe in her version there's no room to understand that love is sometimes desperate, clumsy, even destructive, that loving doesn't always look pretty from the outside, that sometimes the ones who love the most are the ones who hurt the most without meaning to. It's so hard to understand. I know I made mistakes, I never said I didn't. But I also know I wasn't a monster, I wasn't cruel for sport. I was just someone who, in her loneliness and fear, chose badly while trying to save something she loved. Doesn't that count for something? Every now and then I catch myself writing messages to her in my notes. I watched a movie I know you'd love. I walked past your favorite cafe and thought of you. Do you remember when we used to dance like crazy in the living room on Fridays? Small things, silly things that hurt more than the big memories. But I don't send them, I can't. Lucia made it clear her life has no space for me, and even if I want to scream that I helped build it, that none of what she is would be possible without the tears and sacrifices I put along her path, I know saying it wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't bring back her affection, her trust, or her presence. What am I supposed to do with all this love that has nowhere to go? Sometimes I wonder if she will ever forgive me. If on a Christmas, on a birthday, on a bad day, she'll remember her older sister and think, maybe she wasn't perfect, but she loved me. Is that too much to ask? Will it be too late? I don't expect her to call me tomorrow, or next week, or next year, but I'm still here waiting, sometimes angry, sometimes sad, sometimes with an absurd hope I don't even understand. Because despite everything, despite all that's bad, all that's broken, all that's unforgivable, she's still my sister. And a part of me, the part that hasn't died yet, refuses to let her go completely. Maybe it's naive, maybe it's masochistic, or maybe it's simply love, a love that didn't know how to be better.